I spent 26 days alone in a hospital bed in Winnipeg, and not one member of my family came to see me. Not my daughter, not my son-in-law, not my sister Paulette, who lives 40 minutes away in St. Vital and who I had driven to her chemotherapy appointments every single Tuesday for 2 years. Not one of them. I'm 53 years old. I've worked since I was 16. I raised my daughter Amber mostly on my own after her father Kevin left when she was 9. I didn't ask for much. I didn't expect much really. But I genuinely believed, that if I was ever lying in a hospital bed not knowing whether I was going to make it out, someone whose my blood would at least show up. I was wrong. Let me tell you how it started, because it didn't begin in that hospital room. It began the way most things in my life began, quietly, without drama, with me just trying to keep everything together while everyone else fell apart around me. It was the second week of February. I remember because it was Family Day long weekend coming up, and I had already bought the groceries for a dinner I was planning to host. Pork tenderloin, roasted root vegetables, the good sourdough from the bakery on Osborne Street. I'd been having what I thought were bad episodes of heartburn for about 3 weeks. I kept taking antacids and telling myself it was stress. I was working full-time as an office administrator at a civil engineering firm downtown. I was also helping Amber and her husband Dale renovate their basement. Not financially, I mean physically. Going over there on weekends and painting, moving things, doing the work that Dale never seemed to get around to. The morning of February 7th, I woke up and the pain wasn't heartburn anymore. It was something else entirely. It radiated up into my jaw and down my left arm, and I sat on the edge of my bed and thought, very calmly, that this was what dying felt like. I called 911 myself. There was nobody else to call. Or rather, there were people, but I didn't want to alarm anyone until I knew what was happening. That's the thing about being the dependable one in a family. You spend so long being the person who handles things that even when your body is shutting down, your first instinct is not to be a burden. The paramedics came. They were kind. One of them, a young man with a red beard, held my hand while they put the IV in. I thought about how strange it was that a stranger was holding my hand and my daughter didn't even know I was in an ambulance. At the hospital, they told me it was a heart attack. Not a massive one, but a real one. I had a blocked artery. I needed a procedure. I was going to be in hospital for at least 2 weeks, possibly longer depending on how my recovery went. I called Amber from the hospital phone. My cell was dead, while I was still in the cardiology unit, still in the paper gown, still with the electrodes on my chest. She answered on the 3rd ring. Mom, why are you calling from a weird number? I'm at Health Sciences, I said. I had a heart attack this morning. There was a pause, then, are you serious? Yes. They said I'll be here for a while, a couple of weeks at least. Oh my God, she said. Okay, let me. Dale has hockey tonight and I have Zumba, but I'll figure something out. Are you okay? Are you stable? I said yes. I was stable. Okay, good. Good, let me talk to Dale and I'll call you back. She didn't call back that day. I lay in that hospital bed listening to the monitor beep and watching the light change through the window, and I thought, she'll come tomorrow. She's probably in shock. She needs time to process. Tomorrow came. No Amber. I called her. She said she'd been meaning to call, that things had been hectic, that Dale's mother had come for the weekend. I said that was fine. I said I understood. The day after that, nothing. I called my sister Paulette. She said, oh Lynne, that's terrible. She said she had a lot going on with her kids. She said she'd try to get by when things settled down a bit. I want you to understand something about Paulette. When she was going through her cancer treatment, I drove her to the Cross Cancer Institute. In Winnipeg, that's Health Sciences. But we'd gotten a referral, every single appointment. I sat in waiting rooms for hours with a book and a coffee, and I never once made her feel like she was an inconvenience. I brought her soup. I picked up her prescriptions. I cleaned her bathroom because she was too weak to do it herself and she was too proud to ask. Things never settled down for Paulette. She didn't come. By the end of the first week I had stopped calling. Not out of bitterness. Not yet, but because every phone call left me feeling worse than before I made it. My blood pressure would go up. The nurses noticed. One of them, a woman named Cherise, who was from the Philippines and had the warmest, most matter-of-fact energy I've ever encountered in another human being, sat down next to me one evening and said, "Are you expecting visitors?" I said I wasn't sure. She didn't push. But after that she started stopping by more often, asking how I was sleeping, bringing me an extra blanket, small things, the kind of things you don't notice until they're the only kindness you're receiving. The procedure went well, a stent. Standard, they said. I'd need to take medications for the rest of my life and make changes. Diet, stress, exercise, but I was going to be fine. I cried when the cardiologist told me, which surprised me. I think I'd been holding my breath for so long that the release of it just came out as tears. A colleague from work, a woman named June, who I'd eaten lunch with for years, heard through our office manager what had happened, and she drove to the hospital with a potted plant and a bag of books. She sat with me for 3 hours. She told me about her own mother's heart attack 10 years ago and how terrifying it had been. She held my hand when I cried, June. Not my daughter, not my sister June from accounting. I was in hospital for 26 days. My daughter visited once, on day 19 for 45 minutes. She brought flowers from the Safeway near her house, the kind in the plastic sleeve. She sat in the chair beside my bed and scrolled her phone while I talked, and when I stopped talking she said, "You look good, Mom. I think you're going to be totally fine." Then she said she had to get home because Dale was making dinner. On day 20, Paulette called and said she'd been thinking of coming, but wasn't sure about parking at Health Sciences. I told her parking was $3 an hour on the lower level. She said she'd look into it. She never came. I was discharged on a Tuesday in early March. I took a taxi home. I let myself into my house, put my bag down, stood in my kitchen and looked at the groceries still sitting on the counter, the ones I'd bought for the family day dinner that never happened. Most of them spoiled now, a soft collapsing lemon on the windowsill, and I sat down on the kitchen floor and cried for a long time. Not because I was sad, or not only because I was sad, it was something else, something more like a lens clicking into focus. Like I had been looking at my family slightly blurry for years, making allowances and excuses. And now suddenly everything was sharp and clear, and I could see exactly what I had been to them. I was the one who showed up. I was the one who drove and cleaned and hosted and remembered birthdays and sent gifts and listened. And what I was not, what I had never been, I realized, was someone they would do any of those things for. I went to cardiac rehab. I changed my diet. I started walking every morning along the river trail, even when it was cold enough that my breath fogged. I was careful with myself in a way I had never been before, because I understood now in a very physical way that I only had the one body and it was mine to look after, because no one else was going to. Amber called occasionally. Brief calls, cheerful, surface level. How are you feeling? Getting better? Great, great. We should get together soon. We never did. I started to feel something shift in me that I didn't have a name for at first. It wasn't anger, exactly. It was more like a door quietly closing. Not slammed, just closed, latched. The kind of closing where you don't realize until later that you were on the outside. It was a Thursday evening in late April, about 7 weeks after I'd been discharged, when my phone buzzed with a text from Amber. I had just come in from my walk. I was making peppermint tea. The evening light was coming through the kitchen window. And the river trail had been beautiful, and I was genuinely, for the first time in months, feeling something close to peaceful. The text said, "Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you about something. Dale and I are looking at buying a place up at Falcon Lake, a cottage. We found something perfect, but we need to move fast. The sellers want $47,000 down. I know it's a big ask and I wouldn't ask if we weren't desperate. Could you help us out? You could come up anytime. It would be like your cottage too. Let me know. Love you." I read it 3 times. $47,000. For a cottage at Falcon Lake. Because they needed to move fast. I set my phone down on the counter. I picked up my tea. I stood at the window and watched a pair of Canada geese cross the yard, and I thought about 26 days. I thought about 45 minutes and Safeway flowers and a daughter on her phone. I thought about Cherise and her extra blanket. I thought about June from accounting and 3 hours and a potted plant that I still have on my windowsills, still alive. I thought, I almost died. I almost died and she didn't come. And now she wants $47,000. I put my tea down. I picked up my phone. I opened the text message thread, and I transferred her $1 through Interac. $1. Exactly. Then I typed back, "Good luck with the cottage, sweetheart." And I put my phone face down on the counter and went back to my tea. She called 11 minutes later. I watched the phone ring. I didn't pick up. She called again. I didn't pick up. The third call I answered. Mom, what is that? What does that mean? The dollar, I said. I thought I'd contribute what I could. Are you? Is this a joke right now? No, I said. No joke. I hope the dollar helps. Mom. Her voice shifted. That particular shift I'd known since she was a teenager. The one that meant she was about to reframe the situation so that I was the difficult one. I know you're still recovering and things have been hard. I get that. But this is really important to us. This is our future. The cottage would be for the whole family. Amber, I said, and something in my voice must have been different because she stopped. I was in the hospital for 26 days. You came once. For 45 minutes. Silence. I had a heart attack. I almost died. And for 26 days the only people who showed up for me were a nurse I'd never met and a colleague from work. Not your aunt, not anyone who shares my last name. Mom, we were busy. We had things, I know, I said. I know you were busy, and I understand that life goes on. But Amber, I need you to understand something. I spent 26 days in that hospital thinking about a lot of things, about what matters, about who shows up. And I made some decisions. Another silence. What does that mean? She said, quieter now. It means I love you, I said. It means I will always love you. But I am done being the one who gives without it ever going the other way. I'm not helping with the cottage. So that's it? You're punishing us because we couldn't come to the hospital every single day? I'm not punishing anyone, I said. I'm just being honest about where things stand, she cried. Dale got on the phone and said some things I won't repeat here. Things about how I'd always had a way of making everything about myself, and how Amber had been devastated about my heart attack, but had been trying to respect my space. I let him talk. When he was done, I said, very calmly, that I hoped they found something lovely at Falcon Lake, and I wished them well, and I said goodbye. I blocked Dale's number that night. I didn't block Amber's. She's still my daughter, and I didn't want to close that door completely. But I didn't reach out to her either. I called Paulette the next morning. I told her I'd been thinking about things since I got out of hospital. I told her I appreciated everything we'd been through together. And I told her that I was stepping back from being the person who handled things for everyone else. That I was focusing on my own health and my own life. And that I hoped she understood. She said she understood, which I think meant she didn't. But that was okay. I'm not going to tell you that I feel great about all of this. I want to be honest. There are mornings when I walk along the river, and I think about Amber as a little girl. The way she used to fall asleep in the car, and I would carry her inside and lay her down, and stand in the doorway, watching her breathe. That particular sweetness of a sleeping child. I think about the years of birthday cakes and school concerts, and the time she had her appendix out when she was 14, and I slept in the hospital chair beside her for 3 nights. I think about all of it, and it hurts in a way that I suspect it will always hurt. But here's what I know now. I know that love is not a feeling you have. It's a thing you do. It's showing up. It's 45 minutes versus 26 days. It's the difference between someone who says I love you and someone who drives 40 minutes in February and sits in a waiting room. I know that a $3 parking fee is not the reason my sister didn't come. I know that a heart attack is not a good thing, obviously, but that mine showed me something I might never have seen otherwise. It was like an X-ray. Not of my heart, of everything around it. June and I have lunch every Thursday now. She's become one of my closest friends. She lost her sister last year and we talk about grief and family and what it means to choose your people. She brought me a plant. I brought her a lasagna when her sister died, and we have never once needed to explain to each other why showing up matters. My plant is still alive. I water it on Sunday mornings before my walk. It has new leaves coming in. The cottage listing at Falcon Lake sold, I think. I don't know whether Amber and Dale got it or someone else did. I don't ask, and she doesn't tell me. What I know is that I made myself a real dinner last family day. Pork tenderloin, roasted root vegetables. The good sourdough. I ate at my own table and I called June and we laughed for an hour on the phone. And outside the river was just starting to thaw and the light was doing that thing it does in March in Manitoba. That particular pale gold that feels like a promise. And I thought, this is mine. This quiet, this peace, this life that is finally for the first time in a very long time genuinely mine. $1. That's what I sent. Some things are worth exactly that much and no more.